right. How's everyone doing? Gonna give going into that, just so everybody can hear it. Just want to make sure I was fair. Could actually find the actual pull request. There was. Let's see. I got to go through the commit history, I think. Let's see. Which one of the. Let's gonna have to look through these. I know it was recently. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. Basically, hopefully, everybody that cares is here. So we talked last week about Russ kind of surdy a little bit of drama. But you know what the best part about a little bit of drama is? When all that drama is good faith efforts. So there was nothing nefarious going on. It was just more of like people really hated Surdy derives build times. They made it faster by pre-compiling the binary, and then people hated that there was a pre-compiled binary. That was a short, rough estimate of the what happened. So they reverted the binary. So now you get back to those long Surdy derive. So here's actually the Surdy derive that you can see here at 1.7 seconds on this person's machine. Again, people will vary. And so we're back, and so they just reverted it because, again, it was a good faith change. The person was just doing it to make things faster and better for everybody. What this is doing is something that Russell and I had talked about, where you could include SERDI or SERDI derived basically as a flag, whether you wanted the precompiled binary or not. This work hasn't been done yet, as it's still open, but the idea here is you can use the precompiled binary then if you would like, if compile times is a big deal to you, and you can use the precompiled binary. So I think this was a great change, and I just wanted to shout out that there really wasn't any drama. There was a little drama, but it wasn't any bad drama because everybody was working in good faith. All right. Let's get into the security. I actually have something that I've been watching for a little while that I think could be really useful to teams. Currently, I don't think it's that useful. I don't think it's as useful as it can be in the future. They need to have some connectors. But Bitwarden released their open source secret manager. Now, they have a hosted solution, which honestly, for the price that they're charging, I would just use this. I'm actually thinking about trying it out for the Null Cloud secrets, because it's something stupid, like $6 per month per user. Not expensive, especially considering you don't need a ton of users for your secrets. So really not bad, but they also have a free tier for the self-hosted, with unlimited secrets. So anyways, you can host it yourself, but it's really not bad on the free tier. And Bitwarden is a decent solution. I've liked the company. They're not sponsoring any of this. I've just liked what they do, how they do it, how transparent they are with their things. They've even replied to my email. I questioned them on how many passes on their hash that they had, and they replied on how to update those to make it better when there was the one pass fiasco and everything. So they have really done really well. Anyways, and they've made this so if you can go to developers and you can go to their Bitwarden secret manager. It seems like a decent thing, especially with the changes now to something like Vault, where people aren't as comfortable using Vault. Now, one thing that isn't there yet with this is their Kubernetes support. So there is this. You should log in to the Bitwarden community and upvote this, because it would be great to see a connector in Kubernetes. So you could use this is the thing. And now they did say that they're working on it. And they said that they were working on it, but this was June 27th. Who knows when that's going to come to fruition. Now, it does have a public API that you can use and you can call, so making your own operator wouldn't be that big of a deal. Maybe it's something we'll have to do if this takes too long for them. I'd hate to do all the work and then them release one like a couple weeks later, but I don't know if they're actually working on it. They just say they are. But it would be great to have this in Kubernetes. NIST refers to itself in the third person in their own articles. So NIST is it's the National Institute for Standards and Technology. It's a U.S. government agency that helps make standards for companies and algorithms and software. So a little while ago, I reported on NIST announced the first 4 quantum-resistant cryptographic algorithms. So they basically said these were the 4 that they were moving forward with at this point, that the scientific community has said would provide protection against cryptographic or quantum attacks. And basically, for the first 3 algorithms, they've actually released drafts for standards for those algorithms that it's selected. And it's going to be releasing a draft standard for the 4th, the Falcon algorithm, later this year. Now, what it's doing is it's calling on people to review these standards for the global community to review these standards and give them feedback. So they have feedback. When is the cutoff for their feedback? November 22nd, 2023. So if you're part of this community, I'm not. But if you're part of this community, they are looking for feedback on this. So yeah, I think that's cool. In worse news, there is a hosting firm lost all customer data after ransomware attack. This is rough. I feel bad for these people. Cloud Nordic and Azure Cloud have suffered ransomware attacks, causing the loss of the majority of customer data and forcing the hosting provider to shut down all systems, including website, email, and site. This is rough, and this is why you need layers of security. Now, I couldn't go to their actual thing because I don't speak the language that they speak. I don't know what it is because I don't speak it, and I definitely don't read it. So this is the actual post. But unfortunately, if you were using Azure Cloud, all of your data is gone. It was encrypted, and they don't have any plans as far as third-party articles that I've been able to read. I suppose I could have Google translated this, but I feel like that's just as good as third party. Anyways, the third party, they're not planning on paying the ransom. Yeah, honestly, these algorithms as they stand, the NIST algorithms, aren't super efficient. Aren't super. I'm looking for hardware-based solutions. I think that's where when you're NVIDIA, you're probably more like your CPUs. Intel's pretty good about this. I think it would be better for them to have hardware, hardware accelerated Falcon. Because these algorithms are not nearly as, I say lightweight as like TLS, but TLS isn't even that lightweight. And they've already done hardware, hardware accelerated TLS. So I'm expecting to see, when these get set in stone, I expect to see AMD, Intel, to start adding these to their chips. That would be my expectation for server chips, server CPUs that would have acceleration for these. I could be wrong. I could be, but I would hope that they would do that. Last thing in security is I saw the Docker Scout had a demo. I think Docker Scout has been in beta for a little while, but basically it's another scanning tool that you can use to scan your container images. It basically looks for common CVEs. It's a lot like Dependabot for your container images. So if you were looking for something like that, it is available. Now, as far as I know, Scout only does container images. So if you have other types of artifacts, it's not going to do those. But yeah, so if you're using Docker and Docker Hub, it might be a really nice option. Are these the next PCI devices? The quantum proof encryption processing units? They could be. They could be PCI things. I think it would be cool to see them on the chip themselves, like on the CPU chip themselves. But I think possibly you could do like a PCI network drive. So basically, you just put your Ethernet cable into the quantum protection unit that plugs into so basically Ethernet ports. I think that would be a fantastic way of doing it. Think you might want to have them separate unless it's FPGA, and you could update it with microcode. Maybe. A lot of times they're not separate. Those standards for those don't change fast or quickly or often. Like your TLS, that's not separate from the CPU. I'm not into chip design though, so I couldn't tell you. Like it makes sense what you're saying, where like you could update it like an FPGA. But FPGAs are generally general purpose. Like they allow you to program them however. You usually experiment with an FPGA, figure out exactly what you want, and then you actually make that custom silicon. That's where you get the real benefits. At least that's my understanding. All right, GCP took away their latest news article thing. So I had to sift through their topics. I didn't find anything. I went through all stories that was anything in the cloud related. TPU 2 requirements meant a whole bunch of computers couldn't run newer OSs. Oh. Yeah. So I don't know about the TPU 2. That's a hard one, Russell, because like the fact is TPU 2 isn't very good even. Like it's actually further behind than Apple's. And so as well as it's kind of old. It's kind of old. It's been out for a while. And Microsoft has actually mandated people like OEMs that are going to put Windows to have it for like 5 or 6 years prior to that. And I don't know because I personally would have said Windows is going to complain and you're going to have to tell it that you're okay with the less security. That's probably what I would have done. Yeah, so I think Microsoft mishandled that probably as far as how they rolled it out. But I also understand we have to have better physical security. So I'm not sure. And obviously, you're right that even if it's on the chip and there's a newer one, you could have a PCI Express one, just like the TPM2, not TPU, it's TPM. It's TPM. I'm pretty sure TPM, but the TPM you could actually buy ones that were separate. They weren't PCI, but you get the point. Like you could buy ones to put them on your motherboard yourself. I don't think they were PCI. They could be. I didn't buy one, so. No, you're good. I was saying TPU and then I was like it's TPM. But yes, you could buy PCI Express one. I'm gonna say they were PCIe, but they were probably I think they were like a pinout that you plugged into your motherboard somewhere. But again, even if they made it on the chips so that your CPU had hardware accelerated quantum encryption, proofing stuff, you could still put a PCI Express card in to do it as well if you needed to. That was my only and you're right. It would be better to have something that's to be updated. I find a lot of the times these things aren't updatable almost by design. And like a lot of people will jump on like obsolescence by design. And I generally agree with them. But I think somewhat for security, you want something that people can't overwrite. That's my understanding is like if you can overwrite it, that itself is a security flaw in the security defenses. I don't know though. I'm not a security expert. All right. Azure. Support for Node 16 LTS. Has anything proven hacker resistant? Hacker resistant versus hacker proof. Not hacker proof. Hacker resistant, yes. TLS 1.3, I think it has been fairly hacker resistant. You know, it's levels of, and that's why you do the layers. And some things like encryption even only delay. So when you encrypt something, it's just how hard is it going to be? How long does it take to break the encryption. It's not this is impossible to break. So I don't think anything is hacker proof, but hacker resistant. I would say a lot of them are hacker resistant. I think that's the goal, is to be hacker resistant. All right. I don't know why I skipped Azure, because I was saying I had to search through everything in GCP, which I did, and I found this introducing BigQuery text embeddings for NPL tasks. So if you're using BigQuery, today we're announcing a set of new features in BigQuery to generate text embeddings and apply them to downstream application tasks with familiar SQL commands. Starting today, you'll use 4 types of text embedding generation directly from BigQuery SQL. So I found this in their list of things, and thought that it looked worth it. So if you're using BigQuery, you can start doing text embeddings for NPL or NLP type of tasks. So that's pretty cool. Azure is deprecating their Node 16. You have till September 11th, 2023. That's not very long. That is not very long. I was just thinking about it, I was like, that's like 2 weeks. You have like 2 weeks to upgrade to Node 18. Yeah, so if you're still on Node 16 LTS, you better get hopping. Better get hopping. Kubernetes 124 support in AKS, their Azure Managed Kubernetes Service, is being deprecated. So if you're on that, you need to move to 125 and get moving on that as well. The public preview of rate limiting rules for application gateway. Let me read that again. The public preview of rate limit rules for application gateway web application firewall, felt like I was saying application quite a bit, is in public preview, like previously stated. So if you're trying to use their WAF, this is again just their WAF with custom rate limit rules, you are now able to do that, and you can do it through an API, which means like you can do it per account and some other nice unique ways like that provide interesting rate limiting. Azure Cloud only had one really interesting thing going on. I brought up this list because there were quite a few random things, like Amazon Detective launched in Tel Aviv. There's quite a few things launching in Tel Aviv, their newest data center in Israel, so that makes sense as they're powering those things up. So Amazon SES is now in Tel Aviv. Route 53 is now in Tel Aviv and UAE. So there was a lot of stuff launching to Tel Aviv. If you're in Tel Aviv, using Tel Aviv, I would definitely scroll through this a little bit. The only thing that I saw really was Amazon SageMaker announces preview of GPU, CPU profiler tooling for deep learning model development. So basically the SageMaker profiler is going to help you observe your machine learning on SageMaker a little bit better. It's going to help you cost optimize it. It's going to help you understand where things are taking time, what things are doing, and what's doing what. So I think this is a really good extension of their SageMaker. All right, the only other thing, I thought about putting this in general, but I decided not to. It was an interesting take, and honestly, I couldn't find Neo4j's own article was not super convincing to me. But I thought if you guys are a Neo4j people and are using it, I would let you know. Neo4j is bringing vectors to graph database. So the interesting thing here is that it's still Neo4j is a graph database layer. and they're bringing vector queries to a graph database. So, as I understand it today, it is not a vector database. It is bringing vector search and vector-like queries to a graph database. So it's a little bit different as far as I could understand. I was looking at Neo4j's announcement, which was even more confusing to me. So I'm going to have to keep looking at this to understand exactly what it is. Whether it's them doing a vector database, which I would have assumed more than doing a vector database on a graph database. Seems a little interesting. But if you guys are looking at that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a practical database video. Just practical. These are the when to use what database. I'm going to do that. That's the very least I could do. So I will be doing that. All right, let's talk about machine learning. We have a couple interesting things. I'm actually kind of excited about today's machine learning group of tabs, I guess is what I was going to say. You guys know that I love Kubeflow, and you guys know that there was a new Kubeflow tool to actually install it. And to make the deal even sweeter, Kubeflow brings MLOps to the CNCF incubator. This means that it has been brought into the CNCF fold, which means it gets a little bit of extra love. Some of the things that being in the CNCF will do is getting actually a security review, getting a team of people that actually know security to go through your project, and getting better support for a deployment pipeline so that you have that security in there and understanding. It also means that if it's part of the CNCF, they're not just going to rug pull you and change the license on you last minute. So there's a lot of good things about it being in the CNCF. It's now part of the CNCF, so that's pretty awesome. I do actually like Kubeflow. I'm going to have a video probably in about a month because I have some travel coming up about the new tool for Kubeflow. If you want to run locally and want to deploy a Kubeflow cluster, it's pretty awesome. It solves a lot of the problems I complained about in my last Kubeflow video. And so I'm kind of excited to get back into Kubeflow a little bit. Next on the topic is another exciting topic. Introducing CodeLlama, an AI tool for coding. Did I see that HashiCorp announced Open Terraform? What? No, I heard that there was a group launching Open Terraform because they closed sourced their code. They literally just closed sourced Terraform. And you're telling me that they've already backpedaled? I didn't see that. I didn't see that at all. One second. Yeah, Open Terraform is not by them. Yeah. This is not by HashiCorp. Or fall back where I am. Fork Terraform into a foundation. So as far as I have seen, yeah. Now, so HashiCorp is so far very much on its business source license kick, and Open Terraform is a community branch, a community fork. It can be one of 7 billion projects in the CNCF. Honestly, I don't know how I personally feel about this, because I personally would say that being part of the CNCF almost means like you're part of a non-exclusive group. Like I wish that I wish that like there was a group of projects that stood above the others that are like, no, 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 these are like really solid. And I kind of wish that the CNCF had been that place for people. I w- I wish that the CNCF had been like, these are like the best of the best projects, and we're going to be really picky. Unfortunately, the CNCF went wide instead of like deep, is what I'm going to say, wide instead of deep, where they pretty much accept anybody as long as you're in Go or you're in C++. You guys know which one I'm talking about. That's in the CNCF. That's C++. Everybody loves it. Um, so so but I don't know, because it's also nice for there to be a place for all those things to live, to like have a community in. So I don't know how I feel about it, because it's like it would kind of suck if none of those had a community to be in. I don't know the right answer. I honestly I don't know what Convoy is. Sounds like Convoy. Oh, Envoy. Yes, that's the C++ project I was talking about. I was like, Convoy. I was like, I don't know what this is. There's a lot of stuff in there, though. I thought that was your point, that you were going to come up with some esoteric project in the CNCF that I had no idea existed. That's actually what I did with like some of the Mighty Mini Mondays. I wanted to do videos on some tools people might not know of, because the ecosystem is so expansive and there's so many things. It's hard to find the really useful tools. I've wanted to do some. I actually think maybe I want to do some videos on reference architectures, of tools that I would use together. They're not going to be as good as if you dedicate a team of people coming up with those reference architectures, but they might give people some good starting points. So there probably is a Convoy. Well, I just searched it, and there definitely is a Convoy. It's around trucking. So I don't know if it's a CNCF project. It is a trucking project, but I have no idea if it's a CNCF project. It very well probably is. All right. One person told me a while ago, and like this has resonated with me, and I think this is like a really good foundation when you see this. The Apache Foundation. They were like, Apache to me is either critical projects or dead projects. And I was like, that at first I was like, that's really sad. Like they only have a few really critical ones, and then they have a bunch of like effectively dead projects. And then I was like, no, 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 that's really what a foundation should do, is like really figure out what are those going to be those critical things, and drive those and make sure that, and then finally also, if there are things that aren't working, let them die. Like that's okay, you tried some stuff and it got filtered out, people decide they didn't like it for whatever reason, XYZ, it doesn't matter. It's not really a bad on the foundation. It's actually maybe even a good thing. It means that they're focusing their efforts on those critical projects that are amazing. So maybe we'll see that in like 10 years with the CNCF, where it's like, no, there's 12 projects in the CNCF that are absolutely critical, and then there's thousands of dead ones. I don't know. OpenTF end of day, vendors don't want to maintain providers for both TF and OpenTF. Yeah, yeah. I mean, one Raj Seelan. I'm gonna call you Raj Seelan. Hopefully that's close. Thanks for being a first time. We're doing the news today. Yeah, I don't know whether OpenTF is going to work. I feel like there's either going to be a huge shift and everybody's just going to shift to OpenTF. That's one possibility, or people are going to accept it and just move to the other one. I don't know which one it is. I think I don't think that there's going to be this both. Scott B, nice to see you. Glad you could join. We're doing the news right now. we're talking more about OpenTF than we are anything else. I kind of agree with Sealan. Raj Sealan. I'm just gonna call you Raj. You've been doing Rustlings? Perfect. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. All right. Just call you Raj? Okay, perfect. I can do Raj. I can do Raj. My brother-in-law's name is Raj, so I'm pretty good at that name. All right. Introducing Code Llama, an AI tooling for coding. So Meta just released, and it's open source, so you can actually go download it. One second. I had that link. Yeah. Okay, so at the bottom of this, if you wanted to, they have their AI blog, but you can download the model. So that's pretty cool. And it's licensed for both commercial and non-commercial use. It's limited to a few languages. I believe so. I saw Python as one of them. Let's see, including Python, C++, Java, PHP, TypeScript, C#, Bash, and more. I think the and more usually is like, it will do any language, but they're not good at those languages. Like we saw with Rust. A lot of the coding languages coded Rust, but they never were able to handle the memory management or anything like that. It's like they wrote Rust syntax, but it wasn't really Rust, and it never really compiled or worked how they wrote it. What systems does it work on? I'm guessing that it works on Linux. I haven't actually tried running it. So my guess would be Linux, though. So it works like this. It has like a web UI where you basically can ask it questions and it will give you a response to it. And so I'm sure that you could write like a Visual Studio Code plugin or a NeoVim plugin that basically did those things to do inline code. I actually think it would be really cool to look over Cody's code to see how they did their NeoVim thing, to how they did recommendations inside of NeoVim, because I think you could adopt that and plug it into this one running locally if you'd like. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I'm excited, and you know what, if it does Bash, that's like one of my worst languages right there with Python, so it really would help me with my two worst languages, Python and Bash. So it's out there. We'll have to try it the next time we do the AI games. We'll throw Code Llama in there if we can get it running locally, and we'll see how well it does. I brought this up because I think, I think that this is actually a really good example of some applicable uses of AI. IBM taps AI to translate COBOL code to Java. I don't love Java, but I think that using an AI to do this type of translation, helping you translate a big legacy app, I think this is where AI is really going to start shining, where it can do a lot of the work, and then you can have some really experienced Java developers that fill in behind it, where it does the big heavy lifting. And really, honestly, you could just be writing tests to test the new Java code to do, that is doing the exact same thing that the Cobalt code was doing, and then correcting and fixing the spots that weren't passing those tests. I think that this is a really cool use case of it, so I just wanted to point it out. We could get Bad Cop to test it with their Bash-based web server. That I actually thought about Bad Cop with that. I was like, I know Bad Cop loves to write in Bash. I think we should do like we should see if we could get Bad Cop on to do the AI games with me for one round. I don't know if they would do that, but that would be fun. get them to criticize how well they do Bash. I do Bash very poorly. Bash is, yeah. Google, Amazon, Nvidia, and others put $235 million into Hugging Face. So Hugging Face is one of the leaders of open source AI. Not OpenAI. You would think OpenAI would be one of the leaders of open source AI stuff, but it's actually Hugging Face. Now, their star coder was really one-star coder, wasn't super great, but I have loved seeing a lot of the stuff that comes out of Hugging Face, and they're also generally very open and transparent. I don't know everything about the company, but I have seen them be very open and transparent in a lot of their things, so I like how they've done stuff historically in the past. So I'm excited to see them. I guess they're at about 200 people, and they're looking to about double that with this series of money. So they're looking to expand what they can support and what they can do, and that's pretty awesome. Another thing that I saw I told you there was a lot of stuff in the AI to cover that I thought would be interesting to developers was Open Copilot. Now, Open Copilot is interesting because I thought it was like Llama. I thought it was like Llama, where, it was a large language memory model. But Open Copilot isn't that at all. What it is it's basically a API that makes requests to AIs. So basically, you can plug in your Llama or your Copilot or whatever APIs into this. So you just enable them. Those integrations are already done, as per my understanding. Maybe not Llamas since it's new, but then you can use this one single API, the Open Copilot API, to make requests. I actually think this is the work to basically the language servers. So your LSPs provide language services to your IDEs, and I feel like you could write a LSP style integration for Open Copilot, effectively bringing any backend API to your coding experience. So I thought this was really cool. Terraform for coding AI gen. Yeah, kind of. You could kind of think of that. So it doesn't have, it doesn't have all the features. There's a bunch of stuff on its roadmap. Dutch, you kill me. But I'm gonna leave a link. It does seem like a perfect for anyone involved in Copilot. Yeah, I wondered about that, but the thing is, I don't think that you can Copilot because Copilot is too general of a term. So I actually think that they're not going to, because you know how many Copilots there are already in the AI space? There's like 6 or 7 at this point. And that's not even in just our industry. There's even more Copilots. So I don't think they have any right to the word Copilot. So I'm not actually sure that they would win that, but I'm not a lawyer. I don't actually know. Yeah. Right. It's like calling a project Lighthouse. If you call a project Lighthouse, you have no claim. you know, you have no claim to the name. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm actually kind of excited about this. Like, obviously, right now it doesn't do that much, but open backseat driver. I with that one comment, I know how you feel about Copilot. It does sometimes feel like a backseat driver. Do this. No, that's not what I want to do. Do this. That's also not what I want to do. Please stop telling me. You know what the sad thing is? I have turned off all code generation, and I don't think I'm any slower. I think there's a few edge cases where I've not known what I was doing and I haven't had to go look it up. I was able to figure it out with the suggestions, but the general day-to-day things, I don't think I'm any faster. I'm gonna turn it back on. I'm gonna get Kodi integrated into NeoVim to turn it back on and try it again, and we'll do that on stream. But I just gut feeling here, it hasn't been. Yeah. All right, Dutch, getting the right link. Oh, okay. So you're right. This is kind of similar, but not quite the same. At least from first glance. This is cool. I'll review it and maybe I'll talk a little bit more about it next week. I tried to like actually review what this did before actually talking about it. I had to dig into it a little bit because I wasn't quite sure. Like, again, first glance, I thought it was a large language model that did coding, but it's more like giving you a unified API to large language models. You have an alias as an oh, you have it as an alias? Oh, I like that. Okay. Maybe I'll try it in one of the streams this week. I think that's a cool idea. I like it. I like it. All right. Well, that was it for the AI. We have a little bit of. We actually only have 2 general articles. One was kind of an FYI, and then we have one article that we want to read that was called "Ditching Databases for Apache Kafka as System of Record." So I want to read that because I have Apache Kafka is a database. That's my take on it. So that's my take. Now you could say ditching standard system of records databases for Apache Kafka because it's not a standard system of records. So I still think it could be an interesting article. So we have that to follow up with at the end. Right. So we're ditching databases for a database. Right. I think the idea that the author had was that we're ditching standard system of record databases for Kafka. It would be like saying I ditched Prometheus for a time series database and did it in Postgres and it was better. It would be, you're not ditching a database. Now they wrote it wrong, obviously, but anyways, I digress. Some good news for you Intel fans out there. And actually, I think this is good news for the entire industry. Intel boosts game performance by up to 77%. I'm not really worried about game performance, but I am really worried about competitors in the GPU space because I'd like to see more of those AI model training GPUs that right now NVIDIA has the market by coming from AMD and Intel. And it looks like Intel's continues to upgrade their GPUs with better firmware that provide better experience. So these are really pretty cool, up to 77% higher frame rates than their original 2022 launch date. So again, you can't really do your AI stuff on it just yet. This is not what it is, but I'm hopeful in the future we have some good competition for really good cards. And I'm hoping this means that Intel hasn't given up on their GPU sector yet. Yeah. Oh, made the prices skyrocket. Well, I suppose there's you know what though, in the short term, they could make the Intel cards price skyrocket. I got their best card for like $300 for my brother-in-law. I built him a PC with it. It's amazing. It plays every modern game well enough, and it was cheap for that price. But them getting better would make their price go up, more competitive. But in the grand scheme, it's going to make more competition in the GPU sector. More competition in the GPU sector is going to hopefully drive those prices down and give us better GPUs in the end. Right, Dutch. And I'm saying that having good competition from Intel and AMD will force Nvidia to lower their prices. Having that good competition is going like that. The problem is they haven't had that, and they've kind of been able to do whatever they like. Those companies abuse COVID harder than remote workers. That, I'm a remote worker. Dropbox ends unlimited cloud storage following Google's change. So basically, Dropbox is no longer going to provide an unlimited storage tier. So if you're using Dropbox, I know that a lot of software developers do. You might want to check on how much you're using. But yeah, you're going to be capped at 5 terabytes, which is quite a bit. Yeah. So is that on AMD or Intel's roadmap for GPUs? What is on their roadmap? I mean, I have no inside information. I just hope that they're going for servers. If you're talking about the servers, I hope that, I mean, the servers are super lucrative. I would have to assume, Russell, if you're looking for where the money is at right now, that's where it is, right? Maybe it's not. Maybe all they're wanting to do is the dwindling CPU game market. But I don't know why you would do that when you could sell thousands of more expensive GPU units to cloud providers. Right, Dutch. It's still 5 terabytes is quite a bit, but I thought I would put it out there because I have no idea what you're storing in Dropbox. Yeah, Microsoft isn't making any money from their AI investments so far. Absolutely. I honestly think that they're all going to lose money on it. I actually think that obviously I could be wrong. I can't see the future. This is just my personal opinion. I think AI companies are going to go through a very rough time where they lose a lot of money. And we're going to see a lot of AI companies go out of business. Hopefully not Hugging Face, hopefully not Cody. But actually, Cody isn't an AI company, is it? I don't think it is. SourceGraph isn't an AI. Maybe it is. I don't know if SourceGraph is an AI company or not. But I see a lot of these AI companies, your Stable Diffusion probably won't make it. You're talking about Ty. Ty was an amazing experiment. Dutch, you're talking about Ty. Yep. It learned from Twitter. It learned straight from Twitter. Gardner has speculated that we are at peak Gen AI hype. I always find, so I actually saw that and I didn't report on it. And the reason I didn't report on it was because I find it difficult to understand when hype will die down and when it doesn't. Hype is a hard thing to understand because if you asked me, the hype around Web3 and those types of things should have died before they got started. But like that's asking a rational person. And not everything is driven by rationality and understanding of the technology. Actually, in fact, most of the times I find that hype is driven by people that don't fully understand what it is and are sold a story. They're sold a story. And so, as long as you can keep selling them that story, it can go on for much longer. Um, Now, I have adamantly stated, 12 to 24 months. I agree. Think about the only way. Actually, that would be really interesting. I would love to talk to VCs about what their plans for AI is in the next 24 months. Because if a lot of VCs are saying they're not going to invest in it, that is really good, very indicative of they're not pushing more money into it. The Nvidia share price. I think AI can become a massive player in the antivirus, anti-cheat market. I don't know. Maybe, maybe Dutch. Uh, maybe. I think maybe. It depends on what you call AI. If you're talking about statistical analysis, I completely agree with you, Dutch. Statistical analysis is the way to do anti-cheat. It's the way that most anti-cheats are done. If you are talking about large language models, I don't think large language models are going to help there. Yeah. If you guys find some VCs that would be willing to be interviewed by me, I would happily interview VCs about their plans around AIs. I think that would be a great idea. I think it would be valuable for people to understand. All right. Let's talk about ditching databases for a database. That's how I read it. At Core Financial, using this approach has provided immense flexibility and scalability in our data architecture and enabled lean and agile operations. That's what we want. Lean and agile operations. Let me zoom in for you guys so you can read that. Lean and agile. This person has gotten all the keywords in there. So this is going to be a very, very hot topic. Look at this. Flexibility, scalability, data architecture, lean and agile, all in one sentence. This was probably written by OpenAI. All right. I'm sorry. I'm not super making fun of it. Now, this caught my eye because I read this and it said ditching databases for Apache Kafka as system of record, which people don't realize this, but Apache Kafka is a type of database. It's actually a log-based database, and it's a very specialized database. I actually don't dislike the idea of it as a system of record. I have never used it as a system of record, but when I heard this, I was like, that actually kind of seems like it could make sense. I'd have to work on it a little bit, but it kind of seemed to make sense. But it is still a database. This kind of makes it sound like you're not using a database. It's just not one you would think of for system of record. Databases have long acted as system of records, with most organizations still using them to store and manage critical data in a reliable and persistent manner. But times are changing. Many emerging trends are influencing the way data is stored and managed today, forcing companies to rethink data storage and offering lots of paths to innovation. Take Core Financial. I think it's Core. Our financial services startup where we use Kafka as a system of record instead of relying on a relational database to... I don't think I would use relational database for system of record, right? That's not where I would use a relational database. It's actually okay. It's actually okay. A relational database is okay for a system of record, but I prefer not. How many companies use a relational database? It's probably the most popular system of record. Your Postgres, MySQL. It's probably your most popular system of record as far as what companies do. Yeah. We store all of our data in Kafka, allowing us to cost effectively and securely store tens of or even thousands of petabytes of data and retain it over many decades. I need to think about this. Cost effectively and securely store tens of thousands of hundreds of petabytes of data and retain it over many decades. They've got to be hundreds of petabytes in Kafka. Hundreds of petabytes in Kafka? I don't know if I believe this. Not that they can't do that, but yeah, Confluent Cloud must be cheap for storage. That's what I was just thinking. So a lot of the times you run these on very fast drives, NVMe's, because you want it. I consider Kafka a nearline solution where it's near real time, or that's kind of the desired. But I can't imagine that hundreds of petabytes in Kafka stays like that without some serious power behind it, like some serious power. I also haven't run Kafka recently without their old what is it called? They used to use Zookeeper, and now they've switched from Zookeeper to Zookeeper-less. And I haven't tried it with Zookeeper-less, maybe without Zookeeper, but I would not have seen this performance in any of the Kafka clusters that I've done. You'd have to shard the crap out of this Kafka cluster. Like, this would be lots of different Kafka clusters. And if that's what they're doing, that's fine. But this seems a little disingenuous in, it's not just one Kafka cluster. It would be a lot of Kafka clusters. Maybe they're running it locally on fast storage. Yes, Dutch. That's what I'm assuming. SharePoint PTSD. Insane this approach. It's not only, but my point is, like, there's a lot of effort going to maintain that if that's what you're doing. It's not free. I hope they go into detail. Let's move on to see if they go into detail. In saying this approach not only provided immense flexibility and scalability in our data architecture, it has also enabled lean and agile operations. In this article, I will explain why organizations need to think differently about data storage, the benefits of using. I agree with this. People need to think differently about data storage. The benefits of using Kafka as a system of record, and offer advice for anyone interested in following this path. They use Confluent Cloud. Confluent Cloud must be cheap. What is the rate for petabytes of data or gigabytes? What would 1 petabyte of storage cost me? A modern flexible data architecture that enables companies to harness, I almost said harass, data-driven decisions has become more important than ever, and having robust, reliable, and flexible data storage is a key component for success. The other thing that's interesting is how you access your data. So I don't think that Kafka provides the easiest warehousing utilities. So if you ever wanted to, like, do warehouse things on it, I don't think that you would want it in Kafka. You're not going to do your joins on a Kafka data. That's not how it's used. So yeah, I don't know. But the rise of big data, distributed system, cloud computing, real-time data processing, just a few examples of the emerging trends I mentioned earlier, means traditional databases can no longer keep up with the velocity and volume of data being generated every second. I can think of several databases that can keep petabytes of data without sharding. One second. I can think of like 4 or 5 databases that can hold petabytes of data. Let's talk about Cassandra. Not that you'd want to store petabytes in that. I can only get up to 30 days retention. Really? They don't give me the... I have to get an email? This is garbage. Okay. Confluent Cloud is dead to me. I would assume that Core also has a special deal, considering I can only hold it for 30 days. This is where, like, yeah, I mean, a lot of times you don't... Yeah, Confluent pricing needs email. That's what I just found out. Ugh, yuck. I understand having to contact me if you have bigger scale. I was assuming to hit that. And a lot of times you can do like a 50% rule is like if you hit to that bigger scale, you can get 50% of a discount over the standard pricing at least. All right. That's because databases are not designed for scale. I don't know what this person's smoking. Their inherent rigid structure only impedes the flexibility that businesses need for their data architecture. As an operator of different... Kafka is not designed to scale. As an operator of different business-to-business financial trade responsibilities globally, along with complementary modular services, we have a ton of data. Our data streaming first approach is what differentiates us from our competitors. I think a lot of people have data streaming architectures. Our goal to revolutionize the way the derivative markets of global regulators think about trade reporting, data management, and compliance. I need to read this again. Our goal to revolutionize the way the derivative market and global regulators think about trade reporting, data management, and compliance. I'm starting to feel brochureware here. Yes. This means putting Kafka... Look, so I can't read the article before reading it with you guys, or else that would be cheating. Okay? So I can't. Now, if you guys find an article that you read and you think it would be really fun to review with me, you send me those, because then they've already had a filter. But we're just going on. This means putting Kafka at the core of our architecture, which enables us to capture events instead of just state. Yep. And storing data in Kafka rather than a database. This kills me. And storing data in Kafka rather than a database. I need a drink after that. Hurts me to say out loud. And using it, don't clip that, like that phrase, and make that a thing. I am not saying that. And using this as our system of record enables us to keep track of all of these events, process them, and create materialized view of the data depending on our use cases. Almost like a vector database. I've seen people do this with vector database. Oh, look at this, an ad for Confluent right in the middle of reading that. While other trade repositories and intermediate service providers often use databases like Oracle Exadata and their data storage needs, it can be super expensive and pose... Yeah, Oracle is super expensive. Exadata does scale, unlike the previous one. I also know of another database, Aerospike, that absolutely single single database will handle petabytes of data. Petabytes, easy. So, you know, MongoDB with a little massaging, you can get to a petabyte. It's a little bit difficult. Cassandra, easy to scale to petabytes of data as well. You're right, that Core doesn't like databases. That's right. So they had to do it databaseless. Can we call Kafka databaseless instead of like serverless? I like it. I'm going to go with databaseless. That's what it is. Kafka is databaseless. I love it. While it allows us to do squirrel queries, the challenge lies in managing large squirrel databases and ensuring data consistency within those systems. Being the business of global mandated trade reporting means you are serving multiple jurisdictions, each with its own unique data model and interpretation. If you consolidate all data in a single schema or model, the task of uniformly managing that becomes increasingly complex. If you consolidate all your data into a single schema or model, the task of uniformly managing that becomes increasingly complex. I don't know how having a consolidated single schema or model uniformly managing it. Oh, okay. I think what they're saying is like you're getting it from a lot of sources and you're trying to shoehorn it into a uniform model. That would make sense. You're gonna do in memory SquirrelLite. And schema evolution is challenging without a historical overview of the data, and it is materialized in a specific version of the state, further adding to data management woes. Plus, the scalability of a traditional database is limited when dealing with vast amounts of data. In contrast, we use Confluent Cloud for our Kafka and its infinite storage, which allows users to store as much data as they want in Kafka for as long as they need, while only paying for the storage used. While the number of partitions is so this is where they're partitioning it. It's not unlimited. You're partitioning. And you're partitioning the crap out of it because I have scaled Kafka, and like I said, I haven't used the latest no Zookeeper release, but you're partitioning, which means you're making separate instances of Kafka, and you're not managing it because Confluent is managing it for you. But that doesn't mean that you don't have multiple databases. You're just having multiple databases spread out. And this is fine. It's fine. I'm getting a little upset, but it's fine if you want to do that with Confluent Cloud and you have a deal that makes it cheap enough where that's a great solution for you. I don't have a problem with this, but claiming that other databases don't scale and that other databases don't do these things, and that they even made the erroneous claim that databases weren't designed to scale, that's because databases are not designed to scale. I'm sorry. CouchDB is designed to scale. What is the global materialized database is designed to see. That's like what it's designed to do. Aerospike designed to scale. This is just a bad statement. Bad statement. And then you basically come down here and you say, while the database doesn't scale, Kafka doesn't scale, we scale it by making more partitions. It's like they've never heard of managed services before and still don't truly understand. That's exactly what it feels like. It feels to them like it's just one thing, and they just keep going. They make a new partition whenever. Yeah, I think you've hit that nail on the head, Russell. They don't understand what Confluent Cloud is. The amount of data you can put into Confluent Cloud is unlimited. Absolutely. Most clouds will allow you to store unlimited, except for Dropbox. I guess Dropbox, except for Dropbox. This doesn't work for Dropbox, but most clouds will allow you to store as much as you like. And the storage grows automatically as you need it without the limits on retention time. This reads like they talked to Confluent Market and verbatim wrote a blog post. You know what? This is how they're getting cheap storage. Confluent was like, you guys we're going to give this to you discount, but you have to release a monthly blog article on it. Oh, I love this. It allows us to be completely abstracted from how the data is stored underneath. Yes, it allows you to be. This is the point. You have no idea. Oh. All right. We'll move on. We'll move on. So I think this is a good point. The powering the ability to replay data. I like this idea of Kafka, and I think this is a super important piece of Kafka that is super powerful for debugging, super powerful for a lot of different things. And so I think this is good. And so for a system of record, I think it's an interesting concept. One of the remarkable advantages of using Kafka as a system of record lies in its ability to replay data. Native capability that traditional databases lack. For us, I don't know about all databases, but usually when you design a system of record in a database, you have the ability to replay the data. Usually there's a historical record. That's why you do call it a system of record database. For us, this feature aligns with our preference to store events versus state, which is critical for calculating trade states accurately. We receive a whole bunch of deltas, which we call submissions or messages, which we contribute to the trade state for a given point in time. Each incoming message or event modifies the trade and alters its current state. If any errors occur during the stream processing logic, it can result in an incorrect state outputs. So they get a bunch of stuff in, they put a bunch of stuff out. If there's errors, they can have incorrect state outputs. So this is actually what I was wondering, Russell, because Kafka doesn't give you the queryability of a data. It doesn't give you, I'm assuming that all of that is outside. They're only talking about their system of record. They're only talking about what happened during Monday. So if you want to know what Tom did on Monday, you could replay those events. You have the events of Monday to replay that Tom did. It's not holding the current state. Right. It's not getting rid of databases for the, at least that's what I'm understanding, especially with it says as system of record. I think everything else resides in standard databases that just don't scale. I would assume. I have to assume they have something else that holds state. Because like I said, it's not queryable. You can't snowflake it. You can't column orient it. You can't vector it. You can't do machine learning over it because Kafka doesn't provide you the interfaces to do any of those types of things that your auditors are going to want. So my understanding, I could be very, very wrong. But my understanding so far is that they're just using it as a system of record, period. If that information is stored directly in fixed representation or a traditional database, the events leading up to the state are lost, even if the interpretation of those events were incorrect. There is no way of revisiting the context that led to that interpretation. I disagree, but I see where they're going with this, because what they're saying is that it's very easy to replay an entire event stream because it's in Kafka. And I think that's one of the powerful things, is it makes this easy. Not that it's impossible to do with standard things, but it's more difficult to do. You have to be much better with your tracing and other things like that can write to your system of records. But it's not impossible. But I do think it's a good point that Kafka would make this type of thing easy, which I thought was the interesting part, which is why I wanted to read this. However, by preserving the historical order events in a mutable append-only log, Kafka offers the ability to replay those events. As long as you have to configure Kafka correctly, one, so that it doesn't delete your stuff, because Kafka is usually only a short term. Usually the way people run Kafka is that records fall off after 30 days. That's generally how it's done, and it keeps it cheap. Usually it's a nearline thing. Actually, a lot of my Kafka clusters that I've run in production are 7 days because that's all we need them for. Yeah, we have had 7-day ones that when we had an event, we turned on longer storage because we wanted more time to analyze that event. But for in general, 7 days. KSquirrelDB might be the answer to how they get their data out for queries. If they only use Kafka Confluent. Okay. Cool. I haven't used KSquirrelDB. Given our business regulatory requirement, it is imperative to store everything in an immutable manner. We are required to capture and retain all data as it was originally received. While most databases, including SQL, allow modifications, Kafka by design prohibits any changes to its immutable log. using Kafka as a system of record and having. So this is where I think it's actually an interesting take on the system of record. Everything prior to this, I think, was straight up a Confluent sales pitch. This, I think, is what I was kind of interested in understanding. Using Kafka, and I'll look up the K-Squirrel DB. I'm interested. Using Kafka as a system of record and having infinite storage means we can go back in time, analyze how things unfolded, make changes to our interpretation, manage point-in-time historical corrections, and create alternate representations without affecting the current operational workload. Yeah. This is Kafka 101. This flexibility provides a significant advantage, especially when operating a highly regulated market where it is critical to rectify any mistakes promptly and effectively. I mean, honestly, I think take out the highly regulated market. Screw that. It is critical to rectify any mistakes promptly and effectively if you have customer data. I mean, obviously there's degrees to this, and obviously in a highly regulated market you're legally required. But let's just all take some time to say, like, we have customers that pay us to rectify mistakes promptly and effectively. You should do that. You should engineer things with that in mind. Always. Forget the highly regulated market. Enabling flexibility of our data architecture. Using Kafka as a system of record introduces remarkable flexibility to our data architecture. We can establish specific views tailored to each use case and use dedicated databases or techniques that align precisely to these requirements, then read off the Kafka topics that contain the source of those events. Oh no, we're back to dedicated databases. We've done it. We're gone full circle. Now, again, I think as a system of record, it kind of makes sense. I like the idea. And honestly, system of record databases don't get that big anyways, or not. I don't know. I guess maybe if you're trading, you might have lots of data on that. Never mind. Their system of record database might be huge. My system of record databases have always been somewhat smaller. Take customer data management, for instance. We can use graph database designed specifically for that use case. So Russell, this is coming back to you. They use it only for system of record, and then they dump everything into the database that they'd like to be querying, without having our entire system built around a graph database just because it's a view of projection based on Kafka. This is a slippery slope. And not the graph part. The graph part is a slippery slope too. But this is super powerful. You can use multiple databases. But I think it's also something that you only want to ease into when you have to. You don't want to pick a database that you know. This is why I always recommend, if people are like, what should I start my project? And I'm always like, Postgres. Postgres does everything kind of crappily. Like it just does everything. You can do it. You can use it as a document database if you like. You can use it as anything. It doesn't excel at any of those things, but you can do everything, and you don't have to expand to a secondary database immediately. But with them, how they're using Kafka, they have to have multiple databases immediately. That's just how it's going to have to work. Yeah, trading data is going to be quite hefty. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. They probably have a lot of system of record databases. My system of record databases have always been the smallest database out of all my databases. This approach allows us to use different databases based on the use case. Yeah, and this is beautiful. Based on use cases without designing them as our system of record. Instead, they serve as a represent. I have never designed my system of record database as my other databases. I generally don't mix and match. Instead, they serve as representations of the data, enabling us to be flexible. Otherwise, we'd be plugged into a database, data lake, or data warehouse, which are rigid and don't allow transformation of data into representations optimized for our specific use case. For a startup perspective, Core was founded in 2021. This flexibility allows us to avoid being locked into a specific technology, blah, 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 blah. Apart from flexibility, we use schema registry, ensures data consistency, so we know the data origins, and the schema associated with it. Confluent Cloud sales pitch also allows you to have a clear evolution policy set up with schema registry. If we instead put all of the data into a data lake, for instance, it would get harder to manage all of the different versions, the different schemas, and the different representations of that data. Okay. To successfully adopt Kafka as a system of record, a company must foster a culture that encourages everyone to embrace an event-driven model. I love the event-driven model. I love the event-driven model. I love Kafka nearline data processing. I'm not sure if I agree with this though. I think when the Null Cloud has an event-driven model for you that you can use just seamlessly, easily, it's great. But I think you can start with one monolith with your team of 5 people and avoid all of this complexity and have no events because you have a single monolith. And you can even put that on a super beefy 256 core machine with 3 terabytes of memory in AWS and serve half of the United States. So I would agree that if you're going to microservices, if you're going to a service-based architecture, the event-driven model is fantastic. That's what I'm going to say. The shift in thinking should also extend to the way applications are being developed by stream processing. Failure to do so will result in a compatibility mismatch. The goal is to help everyone in your team understand that they are dealing with immutable data, and if they've written something, they can't go in and change it. That's what a system of record is. It's advisable to start with a single team that comprehends stream processing. Who doesn't comprehend stream processing and significance of events as a system of proof by demonstrating advantages? Okay, blah, blah, blah. All right, not as good. What I want from you guys is next week's article needs to come from you guys. It needs to be pre-read. It needs to be pre-read. Actually, this was pretty good. I like this. It was a little... It had some of the things. I don't think they understand what a database is. They kind of proved that a couple times. K-Squirrel DB Quick Start. K-Squirrel DB Quick Start. What is K-Squirrel? Okay, so this is just like an interpretation layer. Yeah, no, I think it's good to have those discussions. I honestly do. Like, I think these discussions are really good, and they're gonna help me think about. I think maybe I'm going to make my. I think I want feedback on my database. I want to make like the ultimate database, practical database guide. And so I think I'm gonna get feedback from some of the community, like super active community members on that, where we go through and you guys kind of help, because I mean we all have different experiences. And so what I would like to do is make the ultimate like 20-minute video where we like the practical applications of different types of, what's a time series database, what's a graph database, what's a vector database. Go through and get like the most applicable reasons to use them, and maybe some like subcategories like, okay, so this is really good for system of record, but you can also use it for this, or this is really good for fast reads and schema on read, but it's really not good for something where you want a strict schema enforcement. Oh, I'm sorry. I will try not to touch the mic. But I would like to get feedback on that because, again, I'm a single person. So I think I'm going to do like not a script per se, but like my breakdown on databases. And then some of you guys that are really active in the community, I'm going to, get your review, get your input, get your thoughts on those to make like the best practical guide to databases. I almost feel like this person didn't understand what a database was and what Confluence was, but that's okay. That's okay. That's what I make YouTube videos for. Help people like this. Kafka is 100% a database. All right. Well, that's it for me today. I hope you guys had fun. Do you guys like this news? CTOs of startups not knowing tech just baffles me. I kind of agree. I'm of the mindset that should a CTO should this is the CTO. I was hoping this was like this is the CTO. Okay, I'm always under the impression that a CTO should be very technically minded. Yep. They should know the principles of things they are using. I agree. Because I mean, that's their goal. They're not hands-on, but they should be leading the technical, which means they should have a good insight into these types of things because that's what they're trying to drive and help you learn and understand. And so if they're not able to drive these things and have intelligent conversations with their senior leadership, engineering leadership, then there's no real good way for them to lead that team, honestly. Like, I do think that's really critical of your founding members, of your, especially of your smaller teams. If you're a startup and you have 50 people, your CTO needs to be able to, talk tech with the best of them because you're going to have to, because what you have, if your startup is 50 people, you might have 20 engineers. That's it. At that point, your CTO might need to be hands-on too. Like, not sure, but they just become timesheet and holiday approvers for your engineering manager, team leaders. Yeah, I agree, Russell. And that's not it's not why you have a CTO. Honestly, you can hire my daughter. She's 12. I guess legally you can't hire her, but when like my point is like anybody can approve timesheets and and holidays. Like, uh, what's your goal then? What do you bring to the team? That's how I always look at it as like as engineering leadership. What do you bring to the team? What are you going to provide that drives them forward, that enables them to do what they do? And being able to understand what and why you pick the tag. Like, honestly, Kafka seemed fine to me, but it just didn't seem like he understood why Kafka or what they were doing or what Kafka was inherently. It seemed like an okay idea. I actually don't like the like when I read the title, I was like, that's an interesting concept, like to do a system of record for Kafka. I kind of like the idea still. Um, I know the stupid U.S. Labor laws preventing you from getting your fantastic CTOs. She is a organizational freak though, so like she probably would do more than that. She'd organize some. She likes organizing. Weirdly. I don't think a 12-year-old is I at 12 did not like organizing. That's all I could tell you. That's all I could tell you. At 12, I was not there offering to help people organize stuff. Anyways, I'm going to let you guys get going. Thanks for joining me. Let me know what you guys think about these new segments. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Yeah. Did you know in the US, your child can work for you if you own the company and it's a private company? Get past those child labor laws. You guys have a fantastic evening and hopefully a fantastic next week. Oh, Scott B, you just missed one of the most epic articles that you could have missed. You're gonna have to go back and watch the recording. I got a little bit passionate. It was a good read though. I think it brings up some interesting topics. I think engineering and designing a system of record is a really cool mini series that I might have to do next year or the year after because they're hard to do. And this brought in some good points about it, along with some sales pitches. So All right. You guys have a fantastic next week. And thanks for watching.